Hi, I'm Mitch Shoemaker, and today is day 94 of my doing 100 days of YouTube videos and focusing on my writing. So, yay, I made it to day 94. Um, I am the queen of procrastination and avoidance, I think. But I'm having had some kind of epiphanies, revelations, some things about myself today. I'm not entirely sure how to go about sharing all of this. I didn't particularly write in my books or anything today. I had the time to do it before I went to work, and I chose not to. And then, of course, I came home from work, and it was really late, and so then I just wanted to fall asleep. So I chose not to again. So it's one of my cheat days. I'm just calling it a cheat day. I don't care. But I did do some writing after I read my scriptures and meditationals. I wrote some things, and it was very short, very simple. My handwriting is not very good, and I wrote it in orange ink, which is fun to write in, but it's not easy to read. Neither is my handwriting, but I don't remember exactly what I wrote, but I was feeling like maybe I needed to try to share it. So I should have tried to read through this before I did this video. That would have been a good idea. Because as you can see, I have my tiny little handwriting and it's all in orange, so it's not legible at all, I don't think. Um, anyway, I just said I need to be gentle with myself, to let go of my expectations, to um, to trust, and to just do and see what happens. Um, I see, I can't read my handwriting. This is me. I write things and I forget what I write, and then I can't go back and read what I wrote, or I type stuff up, but I go back and read it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I wrote that. That's so cool. Um, but I need to trust and just do and see what happens. I did that. Um, I can't. Okay, God wants me to be fruitful because that is how I will find true joy and happiness. And God wants me to be happy. There's something else that has to do with being fruitful. Um, avoiding is something. Oh, avoiding is a habit, and it can be fun, but not fruitful. There we go. Avoiding can be fun, but not fruitful. God wants me to be fruitful because that is how I will find true joy and happiness, and God wants me to be happy. That's what I was trying to remember. I apologize for me and my little whatever, because the problem is I'm tired, and two, I've been yawning a lot tonight. But not just regular yawning. It's when I do my counseling sessions, my counselor says that's how I process things. That's how I let go of things, and I don't always have to know what it is that I'm working through or letting go. I can just let go of things, so I can tell the difference between I'm yawning because I'm tired yawn and I'm processing yawn. And I've had some really big yawns and processing yawns and making my eyes water and my nose run yawns. Like my body's just like, we're letting go of stuff today, which I think is a good thing. I know it's a good thing, but I'm still very good at avoiding things. It's kind of a built-in habit, safety net for me. And tonight I was working, and I was in between customers, and I was praying and I was thinking, and I had this kind of revelation, aha moment, inspiration, whatever you choose to call it. I had it, and it was about being happy, and it surprised me. It was kind of unexpected, but it made sense to me. Um, and I did some journaling about it tonight. which is another reason I'm up way later than I wanted to be, because I didn't want to journal about all of these things. But in journaling about it, again, I did more giant yawning and eyes watering and all of those fun, fabulous things, because it's getting it out of my system. It's letting it go, and I need to let it go. And this is one of those things where everything's distorted. It's all twisted and knotted up. It's backwards from what it actually should be. And so mentally, I know I've been told as an adult, through 12-step programs and, counseling and other things, that this is how things actually are. But emotionally, I think internally, I still, or subconsciously, it's still distorted. It's still twisted. I'm still believing or responding as if what I was taught growing up was true. And one of those things is to focus on the negative. I joke that my family is elephant complainers, because we remember everything, every bad thing that ever happened, and we bring it up and complain about it every time something new bad happens. So it's just kind of like can't ever be forgiven. It can't ever be forgotten. Whatever you did, it follows you. You have to hold on to it, and it gets brought up and thrown in your face every time you make another mistake. That's elephant complainers. That's what I was raised with. My biological mother she called herself a realist, because it didn't matter if the glass was half full or half empty. Either way, it had to be washed. I don't really understand that comment. I don't really understand that humor. But I mean, it's really sad that if not even the glass is half empty, it has to be washed. There's more work that goes with it. There's nothing positive in all of that. It's just so distorted. And this is what I grew up with. These are the thoughts placed in my head. And I was realizing tonight, yes, I am getting back to my avoidance and being fruitful. And by being fruitful, I mean just following through, being active, fulfilling my goals. You plant a seed, you water it, you watch it grow. You want the fruits of your labors to come forth. And I half-heartedly do labors, or I do the work and I get about halfway, 2/3, maybe even 3/4 of the way, and then I stop. I always stop myself. I always stop right before I get the reward, right before I get the fruits of my labors. I don't indulge in the final product. I don't finish the final product. I don't share the final product. I have this permanent stop button or pause button. I just can't seem to pass that final hurdle. And doing these videos, working on my books, sharing all of these things is propelling me towards that final hurdle. And I can kind of envision the final hurdle. I feel like I'm getting closer and closer. And my subconscious, my old habits, my training, my elephant complaining, focusing on the negative, all of those things are screaming at me. They're putting up these barbed wire fences and saying, if you go through this, you're going to get hurt, you're going to get cut open, you're going to bleed to death. You just can't do it. And I could feel it like stretching, and I'm still just trying to push through it. It's like, okay, it's the race, and I got to the tape, and it's barbed wire, but I still have to break through it. It's very painful. It's not supposed to be very painful. It's supposed to be very exciting. It's supposed to be exhilarating. It's supposed to be freeing. And I want to feel all of those things. I do. And I keep looking forward to those things. I keep praying for those things. And I keep feeling like I'm hitting the barbed wire fence. And sometimes it just, what you cut the ends, it snaps and it wraps around you like it was when it was all rolled up before, and it just keeps digging deeper and deeper. I don't know why I'm coming up with this gory analogy. I apologize. But I kind of had a realization as to where all of that's coming from for me. And I think I need to understand where it's coming from in order to untwist it, in order to cut out the barbed wire, in order to let myself heal and in order to move forward. So this is what I'm trying to do. So in an attempt to be fruitful, in an attempt to reach this peak of joy and happiness, I did my journaling about this tonight. I did my thinking and praying about it when I was working tonight. And now I'm sharing my video about it because maybe other people are struggling with the same feelings, inhibitions, and maybe not for the same reasons or the same experiences, but oftentimes we have similar experiences or we have the same emotions around things, and it helps to understand or to hear other people, to know we're not alone. And this is my really good avoiding going around in circles so I don't have to deal with things. But I realized that my thought processes and my idea of happiness is distorted. Almost like, I guess, for me, that being the good kid, the good child was a bad thing. Like, I didn't want to be the good kid because it meant I didn't get the attention, I didn't get the love. It meant that everyone else got what I was craving, that everyone else was before me, and I always got to go last. I always got whatever was left over, and sometimes I didn't get anything because there was nothing left over. There was no more room by the time it was my turn. And I was just supposed to understand because I was the good kid. So to me, being good, being happy, is associated with not having attention, of putting everyone else first, of not being deserving of good things. And I know that's not true, but that's how I felt. That's how I felt like I was being treated. And I don't want to put this in a bad way. I realize now as an adult and having gone through a divorce and all of those things and dealing with depression, I realize that my biological mother did the best that she could, and that to her, from her perspective, maybe having a good kid that didn't get into trouble, that didn't do stuff, she was like, oh good, I have one kid I don't have to worry about. I don't have to stress because this kid's going to be okay. This kid's going to go places. This kid's going to be fine. And she was probably very proud of that fact. She was probably made her feel like she was a good mom or she was doing something right because she had one kid she didn't have to worry about. And I'm not saying I was the only one of my siblings that she didn't have to worry about or didn't have say was a good kid. I'm not saying that. It's just, my older sister, she always told me had self-esteem issues, and my younger sister was the baby and she wasn't there for her, so she had to make it up to her. And then of course I had a younger brother that was always getting into trouble and always kind of demanding attention, and all the trauma that happened in our lives basically happened at key points in his life. So he was acting out and he needed extra attention to keep him from acting out. And my other brother basically lived at the neighbor's house because he was pretty much the same situation where I was. It's like, you get to be the good kid and you get to do everything to make up for all the other ones that need all of the attention. So it's kind of like all the pressure's on your shoulders because you can handle it and I don't have to worry about you, but you have to fix everything. And it doesn't work that way. So, but again, this is just my viewpoint. This is my interpretation. And I understand that everyone, even my siblings, they all have a different view of how things happened in our life. And I'm sure if we compared notes, they will all come out completely differently. So it's just, but that's it. Those are the feelings. Those are the interpretations that I made of my life and of my childhood. And I realized that any time that I wanted to do something different or fun or exciting, I was given reasons why I wouldn't or couldn't do those things. For example, I saw like an advertisement or something on TV, and I paid for something that was dumb because it was basically a booklet on how to like fill out a resume or something, or fill out an application with a resume, which I could have just done for free. I didn't need to buy a whole friggin' pamphlet for it. But there was this thing, and I don't remember if it came in the mail, if it was something I saw on TV. I don't even remember. And I was a teenager. I don't remember how old I was, 14, 15, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, there was this job for the summer in Alaska working on fisherman ships of some kind. And basically, they were just doing like fishing, and you had to like haul in the fish, and you worked there for the summer. So you could just go there for the summer and help haul in fish and work on the boats. And I just thought that would be kind of a fun adventure to just kind of go away from home for the summer, go somewhere I'd never been before, try something new, earn some extra money for the summer, just, an adventure. And of course, my biological mom was so kind and pointed out that I don't like fish. I'm like, well, I don't like eating fish. But so I'm like, okay. And that I don't like early mornings. I'm not a morning person, and I would probably have to get up really early to do this. And I don't like the cold, and it's Alaska, so it's going to be freezing. I'm going to be cold and wet, and I'm just going to be complaining the entire time. And she pointed out to me that I'm a homebody, and I don't like being away from home, and I will be miserable being away from my family, and that I won't have any friends, and I won't know anybody, and I don't like doing things by myself. And by the time she was done with this barrage of things, those things just kept playing in my head. And obviously, since I was a homebody and shy and not going places and doing things, I think this is something that had been reoccurring with everything that I wanted to do in my life. I wanted to play the flute. I didn't have the money to play the flute, so I got to play the cornet because that's what my grandmother played, and she had the instrument, and I was named after my grandmother, so I needed to do that instead. So it's just kind of like everything that I wanted to do or the direction I wanted to go in, there was always a different direction I needed to go in because it was more convenient for the rest of my family because it made everybody else happy. So I should be happy with it. And I was never happy with that. I accepted it because I didn't know different. But I saw different because my brother, a year younger than me, got to play the violin. Then my parents couldn't afford to rent a flute, and I don't know which is more expensive, a flute or a violin, or if they're the same. But they managed to rent to own a violin for him, but they couldn't rent to own a flute for me. I don't I don't play instruments anymore. I haven't played my cornet in years. And that's not really the point. The point wasn't what instrument I played. It was that I felt like there was the favoritism that because he was a boy, he got stuff and I didn't. Or because I was the good kid, I could just, be talked into or told I had to be a certain way or do a certain thing, and I believed it. And then others in my family asked for things, and they got it. So I interpreted that as that was undeserving of those things, that I couldn't do those things. Junior high, I wanted to join the ski club because they teach you how to go skiing and stuff. And I thought that would be so much fun. And they had the teacher that was over the ski club said that they do fundraisers, so anybody that can't afford it, they do like fundraisers, so I could participate in fundraisers to earn the money so that I could still be part of the ski club, even if we couldn't afford it. And I told my mom this, and I was all excited about it, and she said, no, we can't afford it. And I was like, but we do the fundraisers. She's like, no, you don't make enough money at fundraisers, and we still won't be able to afford it because anything you don't make at the fundraisers, I would have to pay for, and I can't pay for anything, so you can't do it. It's just like, these are the thoughts in the back of my head. She said the same thing about my being a truck driver. I saw a commercial for being truck drivers, like when you're 21, you can drive big rigs. And I was like, oh, I want to do that when I'm older. And she's like, oh, you can't do that. Your feet are too small. You can't reach the pedals. So at some point in my life, just to prove her wrong, I actually did become a truck driver. I did it for a little over a year. It was fun. It was an adventure, and I'm grateful that I took the opportunity to try and to do something different. It's not something that I chose to do for the rest of my life. It was kind of a lonely lifestyle that I didn't quite adjust to. And talking to other truck drivers, you have to do it for like 3 years to get accustomed to the lifestyle, or you have to do it for at least 2 years over the road so you can get like a local run to get regular hours and things like that. And I just, it wasn't for me. But I'm grateful I tried it. And I think, even if the fishing thing wasn't for me, during that summer in Alaska, I would think I would have learned a lot, and it would have been an interesting experience, a story to tell. And instead, it's a sad story to tell that I didn't try, that I gave up, and that my mother went and told all of her friends that I was going to go do this thing in Alaska. And then when she asked me what was going on with that, like a week or so later, it's like, oh, I decided not to do it. She's like, huh, well, I told all my friends you were going to do it. And I'm like, you were bragging about me that I was going to go do something, and yet you talked me out of it. You spent all this time telling me all the reasons why I wouldn't like to do it. And then you can't understand why I'm not going to do it? I don't understand the logic behind that. It was like the manipulation to keep me home. But at the same time, I think she thought I was just going to push back and do it anyway. And I was the good kid. I didn't feel like I was allowed to push back. And there were other things, if I wanted to do something, my mom couldn't come to my concerts because my brother and sister played orchestra. I was in the band. And so our concert days were on different days for school. She could only take so many days off of work. And it was more important for my older sister for her self-esteem. And I talked to my older sister, and she didn't care if my mom came to her concerts. And I did. But my mom insisted that my sister needed her, and I didn't. And I think I interpreted all of these things as, I interpreted everything backwards. It got all twisted and distorted, where it was my job to make everybody else happy, but then I was never happy doing all of those things, like making other people happy. And they weren't really happy either. I mean, it didn't fix my sister's self-esteem. It didn't stop my brother from getting into trouble. It didn't change anything. It didn't. And it didn't make me happy either, pretending to be something else or giving up all the things that I wanted to. But I learned that I either didn't have money, or that I wouldn't like things, or that it wouldn't go the way that I wanted it to. And sadly, I think my marriage and divorce was kind of the same thing. It kind of solidified all of those negative thoughts, those negative ideas, because here I was thinking that I finally got everything that I had worked so hard my whole life for. I finally got that, epiphany, that marriage, the family, that everything that I wanted. And then it all just fell apart. It all just got taken away. And there was nothing I could say. There was nothing I could do. And I'm like, this is like everything else in my life growing up. And so I realized tonight that I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid of that accomplishment. I'm afraid of that, reaching that high or that point of like being at peace, because it means all those barbed wires go away. All of my defenses are down, and they have to be in order for me to feel that happiness, in order for me to succeed. I have to let go of all of those inhibitions that I have, and I have to be like, okay, I can do this. But then I'm completely exposed. I'm open to being hurt, to being knocked down, to having someone else come in and say that I'm not deserving of this, and someone else needs it more than I do, or that I'm hurting someone by succeeding. It's taking away from someone else. And even though I know mentally, I have learned that I'm not taking away from anyone else, I'm not hurting anyone else by succeeding, by moving forward with my life, sometimes it still feels that way. There's that guilt that I'm leaving people behind because I'm succeeding, because I'm moving forward. I'm taking away from someone else. I'm not making everyone else happy. I'm choosing to make myself happy. I'm choosing myself first. And I've surrounded myself with people that are loving me and supporting me and want to see me happy. And I know that Heavenly Father wants to see me happy. He wants me to taste of the fruit of my labors. He wants this to work for me. And He's encouraging me and pointing me in this direction. And I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful for the insights to be able to see the distortion in my thinking, to have those things in my subconscious come to mind and be like, this is what I'm fighting. This is these old thoughts, these old emotions, these are the old traumas. And, it doesn't seem like something like that would be traumatic, but I was being deprived of the opportunity to discover who I am, to try something different, to have the experience. And I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, I get to try, I get to experience, I get to see what happens in my life. And I'm I'm afraid of the experience because I have all these negative default settings, all these things telling me all the reasons I won't like it, all the reasons I can't do it, all the I can'ts because somebody else writes better than I do, because I'm not good at grammar and punctuation, because I don't know, because people aren't gonna like my story, because it's embarrassing somehow. I don't know why it's embarrassing. I always feel like that's embarrassing. I think I feel ashamed because I've created these stories, and people are going to read them and they're going to judge me, and I'm not. It's not going to be up to par because it hasn't been rewritten by someone else. It hasn't been fixed by someone else. Because anytime I wrote a story, creative stories, my mother was trying to help me, and I would verbally tell her the story, and she would retype it or reword it so that it had proper grammar and English and punctuation. And sometimes when you do that, it maybe didn't change the story itself, but it changed the voice. It changed the direction of the story. So each writer has their own unique voice, their own unique way of telling a story, and it no longer felt like it was my story or my work, and my stories didn't feel like they were good enough. So it's kind of like I'm putting out a story and I'm like, it's just going to pale in comparison to everyone else's. And of course, in my imagination, it's going to be extremely successful. It's going to get turned into movies. It's going to do all of these fantastic things. But I also, in the back of my head, know that none of those things are ever going to happen. And the reality is, I don't know what's actually going to happen. And I won't know unless I publish my books. And as long as they're not published, I can live in my little fantasy world. As long as I don't finish, as long as I don't reach the end, I can live in my little fantasy world of what things would be like. And that, oh, someday is going to be here. Someday I'm going to have all these things. I'm working towards it, and someday. And every time I get close to what could be someday or to what could be working out, I stop because it hasn't worked out in the past. Because there was always someone else in my life that was putting up barriers for me and not allowing me to move forward, or doing things that I interpreted as meaning that I wasn't good enough, or that I couldn't have, or that someone was more deserving than me, or that if I did, then someone else had to go without. So if I got, someone else had to go without. There wasn't enough to go around for everybody, and someone had to go without, so it had to be me. And so it's reminding me of one of those meditationals that I've read, about someone doing a writing and talking about God's love, and being in a meeting and realizing that there's enough love to go around, and going to the beach and the sun beating down, and there's enough sunlight to cover everybody. So even though it doesn't seem like it sometimes, there's enough to go around, and nobody has to go without. And there are so many different authors and writers and writing styles and books, and there's lots of avid readers and people that want to read everything that's out there. So I'm not taking away from anyone else by writing my stories. And I'm sharing a gift that I have with the rest of the world. And I'm allowing myself to accomplish something, to feel good about myself, to be proud of myself for how far I've come, to be proud of myself for what I'm doing, to see myself as being capable and actually getting what I want, instead of giving it up to make somebody else happy in hopes that they'll do something to make me happy. And I think I share this with one of my 12-step friends, and I told her, I was like, we're like those people that we give up everything and we keep waiting for the little breadcrumbs. And I was like, oh, you gave me a breadcrumb. I'm like, I'm starving and you gave me a breadcrumb. And I'm like, thank you so much. You're so wonderful. And they're not wonderful. They're horrible. We deserve a feast. We should be able to sit at the table and feast with everyone else. And there's plenty to go around. There's no reason to go without. And my biological mom didn't have, or didn't understand, or couldn't do, because there's only one of her, and there was, me and my 4 siblings. So there were 5 kids that she had to take care of and work and all of those things. And she did the best that she could. And I didn't understand that. And all of my interpretations of things got twisted, got distorted. because it was like fighting to have to do anything, to try anything. I had to do it myself. I had to pay for it myself. I had to push past things, and I didn't realize that I could, that I could say no, that I could say I'm going to do it anyway. I thought I had to not, and I thought being the good kid, being good wasn't good because it meant that I didn't get the attention, I didn't get the love, and I don't. But then I felt too guilty to be bad because it's just not my personality to try to upset people, to hurt other people's feelings. It's just not who I am. It's never been who I am. Um, I don't know that I've always been the peacemaker. Maybe that was dubbed my thing, but I don't like being the one to hurt other people, and I don't like hurting. And I always feel so bad when I see other people in pain, like it's my fault and I want to fix it. And I can't fix other people. I can't even figure out how to fix myself. But I'm learning, that God can help me, that there's healing through the atonement, and I'm grateful for that knowledge, for that learning, to be able to learn how to apply that in my life. And I feel like everything that I've been through and everything that I'm doing is helping me to understand things on a deeper level, to be able to internalize all of these things, to untwist, to let go, to reset all of my default settings, because I think they were set correctly when I came into this world, and then they got all distorted when I was growing up. And now I'm trying to get the jumbled mess all sorted out and try to put things back in their proper perspective. And tonight is just another one of those, putting things back in their proper perspective, and knowing that I am allowed to have joy. I am allowed to taste of the fruit of my labors. And it's a good thing. It's something to be happy for. It's something to be grateful for. It's something to look forward to. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that I'm at the end of struggles in life. It doesn't mean that, once I reach this peak and hit something, of course there's going to be another peak. There's going to be another, I don't know, that Miley Cyrus song, there's always going to be another, it's all about the climb. There's always going to be another mountain. There's always going to be another something. But life is all about the climb. It's all about the day-to-day adventures. It's all about what you're doing. And I like daily adventures. I like challenges. I've actually, as difficult as these 100-day videos have been, I have learned so much from doing them, and I want to continue to feel the success of finishing them. And it's like, okay, I've got 6 more days of doing videos, 6 more days of writing, and I kind of want to end on a bang the way that I started. Still trying to figure out what I'm going to do for my next 100 days, and I have some ideas, but I'm going to save them maybe until I start my next 100 days, and I'm sure what I'm doing. But I'm grateful that I can continue to do this. I'm grateful that I can turn my stubbornness that usually, when I get stubborn, I think I get stupid because I don't listen to other people. And in this case, I have been I feel like I've been very teachable in all of this. And that stubbornness has just been turned into determination that I am going to follow through. But it's also turned into a little bit of creativity in what I'm choosing to write about, what I'm choosing to talk about. I've been more willing to trust God and listen to what God wants to teach me, what God wants me to write about, what direction He wants me to go, because He's trying to help me to heal, to learn, to understand. He's trying to help me untangle the mess, that the distortion that I have, my distorted thinking, my distorted ideas, to realize that being good is a good thing and that I can have good things, that I can have new things, that I can have nice things, that I don't have to be last, I don't have to put other people first, and that I'm not hurting other people by succeeding, by following through. I can be an example. I can show other people that there's a way up, there's a way out, there is hope through Christ, through our Savior, through the atonement. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it is not a train. It is an open field. And we don't have to be trapped by a whole bunch of barbed wire. It can just be a little rope that gets broken, or one of those that has a little hook and chain or something, that you can just open it up and say, okay, you can come in, And then you can close it and say, okay, you can't come in. You can set boundaries, and decide which people you let into your inner circle and which people you don't, because you get to decide which people are healthy for you and boost you up and help you succeed and make you feel good about yourself. And you could try to do the same for other people, which is what I would like to do for all the people that have been helping me. I want to give back, and if not to them, I want to pass it forward to let other people know, that it works, that you can get through this. And I'm hoping through these videos you can see that. And if you like these videos, you can hit like, subscribe, share with someone else if you think it'll help them too. Because that really is what I want to do. I want to be able to write. I want to be able to share what I've been through. I want to be able to share my stories, my safe place, my happy place. And I want to just be happier, because I think that's true of love and things and talents. When you share them, you get to keep them. When you hold on to them, I think you lose them, because you don't practice them. You don't continue to use them. They just kind of get locked away. And a lot of my talents, a lot of my desires, they've all been locked away, and I've become afraid of them, like they're bad things, like they're going to hurt me or they're going to hurt somebody else. And I'm having to internalize or change that, becoming aware of that and changing that they're not going to hurt me, that they are good things, that they're positive things. And the more I share, the freer I become, the more that I can actually enjoy the talents and the gifts that I have, and others can enjoy it too. And that spreads love, that spreads happiness, that spreads joy. And the joy and the happiness and the positivity can be just as contagious as the negativity. And if I'm going to remember things, I want to remember the good things. I want to forget the bad things. I want the positive things to be what I look forward to. I don't want to spend my life complaining about all the bad things. I want to be able to let go of them. And I hope through this process that I'm doing, and through these videos and the books that I'm writing, I'm hoping that I am letting go of these things, that I am finding joy and positivity, that I can start talking about more good things than bad things, that I can start celebrating the successes and the positive things, and not so much the negative things. I don't want the negative to be the focus of my life. It's an old habit that I'm having a hard time breaking. But I'm grateful that I found a lot of things to be grateful for, and for the positive. I'm grateful to see the distortion, so that I can start to put things into their proper perspective, that I can untwist some things, that I can start accepting my struggles and accepting this is why I have a hard time with this, so that when I'm struggling in the future, I can remind myself that it's okay to be good, that good is a good thing, that I can have good things, that I can enjoy my successes, that I can have all the things that I want in my life. Maybe not the way that I want them, but I can still have them. It's kind of like that Under the Tuscan Sun, if anybody's seen that movie. And the woman goes to Tuscany because she's going through divorce and she's upset and all these things. And she ends up getting a house while she was there. And someone asks her what she wants in life. And she's like, in her house. And she's like, I want to be surrounded by family. She's like, I want a marriage in this house. I would love to have a wedding here. I would love to have a baby here. And and at the end of the movie, it kind of replays all those things that she wanted. And it turns out that the people that did the construction, that helped do the repairs, the people in the neighborhood have become her family. And so there she is with her family. And then her best friend comes and lives with her, and her best friend has a baby, because her best friend's relationship didn't work out. So I'm spoiling this movie for anybody that hasn't seen Under the Tuscan Sun. I'm spoiling it, I'm sorry. But her friend has the baby, but her friend is living there with the baby. And then one of the people, the family that she'd been working with, that had been helping fix her house and put everything together for her while she'd been there, she helped arrange for him to get married to the woman that she loved, even though they came from different backgrounds or cultures, and they had the wedding in her backyard. So, and then the guy that sold her the house in the first place reminded her of all the things that she'd asked for in the beginning. She's like, what did you want when you moved here? And she was like, well, I wanted to be surrounded by family. And he's like, here's your family. And she was like, she wanted a wedding, and there was the wedding of this, this couple in her backyard, and she wanted to have children, and there was her friend that had the baby. And so it wasn't the way that she wanted it, because I think at the beginning, um, she wanted it to be her blood family, not, biological family, not like adopted type family. Um, that's maybe what she was thinking. And she wanted it to be, maybe she wanted it to be her wedding, and maybe she wanted it to be her children. And I think sometimes in my life I get so focused on how I want it to be instead of accepting what I have. And it was kind of cool because she looked around and it was like, and she was happy and she had all the things that she wanted, just not necessarily the way that she thought she was going to get them. And I've been able to look around and I have a lot of the things that I wanted, just not the way that I wanted them. And I think I've spent so much time focusing on not having things go the way that I wanted them to, that I haven't seen that I'm still getting all the things that I want, and I'm getting all the things that I need, and that things they're continuing to work out for me. And the only person standing in my way is me. I'm the one that keeps hitting the brakes. I'm the one that's afraid of being happy, because I was trained or taught to believe that if I was happy, that in order for me to be happy, I had to make everybody else happy. I had to give up everything to be happy. And that never made me happy. It never worked. Um, and I never got to discover who I was. I never got to discover what I liked, or to experiment with things or try new things. And I have tried a few new things as an adult, and I've been doing a lot of different things with my writing. And that's one thing, that I could do. I could always daydream. I could always make up stories. I could always journal. And the fun part is I could always make up stories, and my mother didn't know what was going on in my head, which is probably another reason it's like this scary putting it out there, because I'm like, now everybody's gonna know what's been going on in my head. Not everything, obviously, but I think it's still a good thing. So I'm grateful that I can start to turn things around and to see the positive and to see what I have in my life and to be grateful for what I have in my life, and that I'm learning how to trust God. I'm learning how to trust the process, and I'm learning how to let go of the negative and the hurt and the trauma and the bad things, because I don't need them anymore. I think I mentioned earlier when I deleted the stuff at the end of my book, I didn't need it. I, um, I think that's true of life. I think there's some things in life that can just be deleted. Don't need them. Don't need to follow them around. I don't need to keep thinking about them. I don't need to keep bringing them up. They don't need to keep getting in the way of my moving forward, because it doesn't my life doesn't have to keep repeating itself. I don't have to keep seeking drama. I don't have to keep finding people that are going to abuse me in hopes that I can somehow change them, and by changing them or fixing them, it will fix my past and it will fix me, because that doesn't work. It never works, and it's an insane cycle that I have been stuck in, and I want to break out of that cycle. I don't want to repeat that cycle. I don't need to repeat that cycle. And I think the best way to stop repeating it is to just delete it, to just let it go. Something much easier said than done, but I can start to see the difference. And I am so grateful that I can see the difference. I can have a different perspective, a different insight, and I can start untwisting things. And I realize it's going to take time to internalize, to untwist, to retrain my brain to think differently, to do things differently, to process things differently. But I think that's why I've been doing a lot of yawning tonight. It's just letting go of a lot of those old things, just digging in there and pulling it out. And yes, that leaves me open and exposed. Maybe I have some open wounds that need to heal. But I'm in the healing process. I'm in the process of letting them heal, and hopefully they'll heal without a scar, and I can move on. And I don't have to let those things stand in my way. I can take the risk. I can take the chance, because taking the risk and taking the chance and getting to that fruit of my labors is a good thing. And it's where that joy, that exquisite joy comes from. And I've had the exquisite pain. And I want to be done with that. And I've heard that you can be just as happy as you are miserable. And if you've had the pain and the sorrow, you can have the joy. And when the good things come, you appreciate them so much more. And I have been so stuck and focused on the negative and on my past that I don't think I've seen the joy or the happy in my life. And I am so grateful that this process is allowing me to see the good things and the positive things and allowing me to experience joy and to smile and to laugh. And I have been smiling a lot more. I've been laughing a lot more. I have been aware of a lot more things going on around me, and I am truly grateful for those blessings and to see what I have and to know that things are working out, even if it's not the way that I want them to, or the way that I envisioned they will. They're still working, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm rambling. I apologize. So again, I'll let you go. So if you like, you can hit like, subscribe, share with someone else. And I hope you have a great day full of gratitude and maybe some writing.